.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. Off of Ben Allison's latest release, Moments Inside, we just heard the track Voyage of the Nautilus. And you are tuned into 91.3 WVKR. LocalMotion is the show. We air live each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the LocalMotion on 91.3 WVKR YouTube channel, as well as giving a follow on the Facebook page by the same name. So now, let's get on with the show and let's get Ben on air. Hi, Ben. Ben? Oh, hello? Ben, are you there? Well, I'm having...
I can hear you fine. I'm not sure what's happening.
Okay, I hear you now. Now I hear you.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Okay.
That's strange.
That is strange, but it's technology, so sometimes we don't have answers to things like that. I'd like to just, as mentioned, do a brief introduction. We just heard some of your music, and I'll start off by saying, New York Times says, quote, "When people say that the frame of jazz is flexible enough to admit pretty much anything, they might be thinking of band leaders like bassist Ben Allison," unquote. Jazz Times calls Ben, quote, "a visionary composer, adventurous improviser, and strong organizational force on the New York City jazz scene," unquote. Bassist, composer, producer, educator, Ben Allison has performed and collaborated with a diverse range of artists. He's appeared on over 100 albums. He's written music for film, television, and radio. Ben has released 16 albums of original music as a leader. He's a strong voice for artist empowerment and musicians' rights. From 2011 to 2018, Ben served on the board of the New York chapter of the Recording Academy. And with that, a warm welcome to LocalMotion, Ben Allison.
Thanks for having me, Rita.
Yeah, of course. Saw you at the Falcon, and had heard your name floating around and all of that, but my friends were like, "You got to go see this guy, got to go see this guy." And what a beautiful evening of music you provided us there, where you played a lot off your newest album, Moments Inside, which we'll get to all of that. But yeah, so again, first, thank you for your time here today. I always kind of like to do like a "This Is Your Life, Ben Allison." So stepping back in time, you're from New Haven, Connecticut, born there.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Grew up there in the 80s, I guess you could say, 70s, 80s, moved to New York. Actually, in the mid-80s is when I came down to the city, and I've been in New York ever since.
Yeah, that happens a lot, right? People love New York, and as do I. Let's talk about your start of music. Musical family?
Not so much, although my mom is an amateur singer. I guess I would qualify her. She loves singing. She's in multiple choirs. She's been in choirs for most of her adult life. And, mostly the choir she's involved with sings Renaissance era music, some kind of early European music, and then all the way through to more modern choral music. And she just loved it. So I was around that. Many choir rehearsals. I sang temporarily for a short period of time in the New Haven's boys choir. But really, my introduction to music just happened, I would say, just from going to look for it, because it wasn't something that was always around other than the stereo.
Right.
In terms of live music, it was something I had to go find.
Right. I understand that when you were 8 years old, there were 2 jazz musicians that came into your school, and you hadn't heard jazz prior to that. Is that correct?
Yeah, you must have heard me tell that story. It was kind of one of those life. I mean, I almost think of it as like an origin story. If I had to trace back my love of music and improvised music in particular. So the story goes that there were two great jazz musicians, local musicians, Willie Ruff and Dwight Mitchell. I wasn't aware of their names, but they came to my school and did just kind of a workshop or a mini concert in our music class, just a piano and bass. And as they were playing, I remember this one moment in particular where they looked at each other and just started smiling, and then a few seconds later kind of chuckled at the same time. This is music without lyrics. It was something that was rather abstract for my young ears. I hadn't heard anything quite like it before, but what I couldn't understand was how they could both be kind of reacting to each other as if they were speaking some kind of secret language. And I realized after a few minutes that they were surprising each other. And that was really the revelation for me, that one could surprise another musician.
Right. And
in other words, they didn't know what was coming next.
Right.
And that's the nature of improvisation.
Right. Yeah. But at age 8, that's pretty impressive. And is it true that you began studying music and guitar at the age of 9?
That's right. So then I thought guitar would be a good place to start because it's chordal and melodic, and a lot of the music I liked and listened to featured the guitar. But I didn't last long. I went to a good music school, but honestly, it was a little too dry and non-exciting for me. It was my teacher started me off by trying to teach me how to read music, and in retrospect, even then, I realized that's not the greatest way to start. It's like trying to teach somebody how to speak by describing what a noun is. You just start talking, and then later on you figure out what it is you're doing.
Sure.
So I put it away for a few years and then came back to it when I was about 13.
And then you went to Performing Arts High School?
Yeah, there is a great high school in New Haven. Fortunate to go. It is called, I think the same name, Educational Center for the Arts. ACES is part of the program, and it wasn't open to all public high school students after auditioning and getting in, but it would happen in the second half of the day, so I'd basically be finished with all of my high school stuff by noon or so, and then would walk downtown for the afternoon classes. And so I had music classes 5 days a week for 3 years.
Wow. Wow. And when did you start bass?
Senior year of high school, we were going to do a Motown review. We'd rehearsed all these tunes, Motown tunes, and the bass player, like the day before the concert, called up sick. He was really sick, couldn't make the concert, and the band director said, "All right, Allison, you're on bass." It was. I was playing guitar, so he said, "Look, it's just like the bottom 4 strings of the guitar, only an octave lower." And so that was my introduction. It was kind of trial by fire. But as soon as I picked it up, the bass, and played, I realized that it was a lot more than just the bottom 4 strings of the guitar. And it was kind of that was my second revelation.
What were you listening to in high school? Were you listening to jazz in high school?
Starting to. It was one of those things, again, as I said, I wasn't surrounded by, my parents listened to a lot of European classical music. My friends listened to rock music and kind of new wave, what was happening at the time, but I wasn't really exposed to a ton of varied styles. I had to go look for them, and this is before Spotify and before the internet, and really the best way to find music was radio. So there was a local radio station. Yale's radio station had 1 hour of jazz programming per week.
Wow.
But the best way actually was the record store, and I was fortunate to have were the 2 good record stores in New Haven, but one in particular was this kind of underground used record store, and the guy who ran it knew everything about music. So I would walk in, and he would just pick stuff off the shelf and put it in my hands.
And that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and that was my introduction, and it was a commitment because you'd have to buy a record by people you never heard of and put down your money. So, but he would also buy back records. So I would take records home and listen to them, and then I'd sell them back.
Oh, nice! That's smart. And then buy some new ones and get exposed to many more musicians.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. I also understand, doing some homework, that you studied West African, Haitian, and Cuban drumming while at this high school?
Yeah, that was actually not part of the high school program. That was part of my quest to find stuff on my own. And I found I might have come to that music. Well, one of the first gigs one could get as a young person was playing salsa, because salsa in New Haven in the 80s was, it still is huge, but it was super huge, and it was an entree. It was a way to get into playing live music. I ended up getting asked to be in a salsa band that was run by some middle-aged people, and I was 16, but they were in their 40s, and they asked me to join because I knew how to transcribe music off of records and started to be able to write out charts,
Wow.
even from my experience at the Performing Arts High School. So they asked me to transcribe a bunch of like Ray Barretto records and things like that, which is tricky music.
Yeah.
But that's how I got into the band, and from that, I started playing out on the salsa scene and started meeting a lot of people who were playing other kinds of music that I hadn't heard before, including some musicians who were well versed in Afro-Cuban music. And so I started studying those, just taking classes and lessons with drummers who were very adept at that.
Did you take lessons for bass? And when you say bass, electric bass or stand-up bass did you start on?
I started on electric, that one Motown Review concert, and from there bought an electric bass and played that for a couple of years. But really, I got my first acoustic bass probably towards the end of my freshman year in college. Acoustic basses, they're big, they're expensive, they're hard to play.
Yeah.
So it's not the kind of thing you dabble in. You have to dive in and make a commitment to. So I had taken a few lessons on acoustic bass, and really was just enamored with the instrument because, as I said, I started on guitar and also drums, and I've been playing kind of, drums and guitar, and the acoustic bass felt to me like the combination of the two. It was it was a resonant box like a drum, and it was a bass like a bass, and it just, as soon as I heard that and I heard people play it, it also harkened back to that piano and bass duo that had come to my school, and I started to just, fall in love with the instrument. And then from there, I dove all the way in.
Yes, you did. You most certainly did. You went to NYU for college?
That's right. They had a small jazz program. I think there were somewhere between 8 to 12 of us at any given year.
Wow.
So it was quite small. In truth, I went there as an elaborate ruse to get into New York. In retrospect, maybe I would have gone to the new school or somewhere else, but NYU was fine. It was perfect, and it got me into the Village, and it got me connected me to some fine musicians and some outstanding teachers, and more importantly, the New York scene. So that's what I thought of college as really being for, was just to get me into town and to kind of provide some structure while I negotiated the music scene and figured it out.
Yeah. I understand, and you tell me, the first day in New York you saw Kenny Barron and Ron Carter?
Yeah, that's right. You've done a lot of research. I like this, Rita.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you get to New York and you go to a club, and those are the first two you see?
Yeah, well, they're right down the street from the dorm. The place is still there. It's actually a restaurant, a nice restaurant called the Knickerbocker Bar and Grill. And for years, I think they're going to resume it, I'm told, shortly. But for decades, they've had piano and bass duos there. And the very first night I was here, walked right outside, walked into the first place I found, and there they were.
Wow.
And I was very aware of Ron Carter at that point. Kenny Barron I had never heard, but that place allows you. There's like a little kind of nook right behind the bassist, and you can literally get one drink and nurse it all night.
Sure.
No cover charge, and just hang there. And I did. I just sat there and watched, maybe 3 feet away, one of my idols play, and then got a chance to talk with him and ask some questions. It was just, I was like, yep, this is why. I knew it. I knew if I came to New York,
It kind of like
how to be in a place
cemented what you wanted to happen, like your first night. It was like your whole process of like, yes, getting there, getting in, and look at what happened your first night. It was like, yeah, Ben, you made the right choice.
Well, you got to go find it. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the thing. It's like, but when you look, you find. I mean, that's what my parents taught
yeah,
me.
yeah. No,
If you're curious
absolutely.
about something, go find it.
Right.
And they were very, very supportive in that, which I'll be forever thankful for. And yeah,
Yeah. And so, like, when you go to college and you're seeing this kind of caliber of live music that you get in the village, it's almost like a continuation of class, I assume. And that's part of your education is just watching masters like that play.
yeah. I mean, it's nothing against the and I am a college professor, so
Right.
I highly value
Right.
the
An
educational
education.
process,
Right.
but nothing beats going and hearing people and seeing them do it
Right.
live in front of you. I mean, the lessons that you learn in the moment, just watching them and listening is, and then eventually playing with people. I mean, those are the greatest lessons. When you're playing with people, you even learn a deeper level.
Absolutely.
Some of the things that I was being taught in school. Well, one of my mentors was Joe Lovano, saxophone
Ah,
player, and he was
yeah.
talking about things that I kind of understood, and I would nod, and then maybe 10 years later, I'd be on a gig, and all of a sudden, oh, that's what now I get exactly what he was talking about. Because now I didn't just understand it intellectually, I understood it kind of more fundamentally.
Right. Yeah. It came
The
back
things
to
he was
you.
talking
It
about.
came back to you. Yeah. I have a daughter that just graduated as a performance major also. So all the things that you're saying on your college thing is kind of like her path also as a musician and how important it is to get educated, obviously, but
Yeah.
nothing like playing with others experience and talking to others after the show too. I think she's doing a lot of that and trying to network with people, and I think that's huge, and everybody's got a story to tell. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. So after NYU, you formed the Jazz Composers Collective. Well, you were playing in bands at the time. What happened? You spent 4 years, I'm assuming, yes, at NYU, and graduated with a degree in jazz performance.
Yeah, which, doesn't translate directly into jobs.
Right?
You
Yep.
still have to go, then you have to go find jobs and you
Yep.
have to find work. I mean, there's a lot of finding in this world, but it's a social enterprise. And that's what I liked about it. It's the people. And it's the kind of profession and art that requires collaboration, requires connections. And it works only when we get together and figure this stuff out. And so what I started to do after having been on the scene for a couple of years and making connections and playing gigs around town and a couple of tours here and there with people, I really wanted to focus on new music, and that was kind of part of my vision, not just playing bass, but also composing new tunes and doing the kind of stuff that I would see a lot of my idols when I was young do, like the Beatles, just getting together and working together to write new tunes. And so I found some like-minded musicians, and we started getting together in the basement of this school I was teaching at the time. It was called the Third Street Music School. I was teaching kids how to play guitar as one of my sources of income, and they had a basement space, and so I just created basically a weekly kind of a jam session, but the price of admission was a new piece of music.
Mm.
And word spread, and people started coming down and bringing new pieces of music. Some of them were very, through composed, complex pieces of music that were 10 pages long. Others were very conceptual. I remember one person brought in a deck of cards, and we were each given a card. I mean, it was really all over the map stylistically, which I loved. Very, very collaborative and experimental. And the point of it was that, I could bring in anything I wanted, even if it failed, and especially almost if it failed, because and everyone in the room would pour their heart and soul into it, because I was going to do the same for them when they brought out their crazy idea that they wanted to work on. And so we really had a great spirit of, supporting each other. And after about a year of doing that, some of us felt like the next logical step was to bring the music out of the basement. and start presenting it, because some of the music was starting to really sound cool and good. People were developing voices as composers, and we wanted to highlight that. And also, this was early 90s, so the climate in New York, there was some people on the scene who were pushing hard to kind of codify the music. This is kind of at the time of the rise of Lincoln Center, which at that time felt very much like focused on repertoire. Great, legendary artists, but often artists who weren't with us anymore, or repertoire. We felt like the music that was kind of the repertory part of it, the older music, was getting the lion's share of the attention at the exclusion of new music that was being written on the scene. And we wanted to make sure that people felt and understood that jazz was a very vibrant, current, now forward-looking, evolutionary art form. I mean, we weren't the only to feel that way. Many people did, but that was part of the inspiration behind what became the Jazz Composers Collective, which was really just a musician-run organization focused on new music. And we started presenting concerts.
When did you start composing?
Well, I mean, I really started composing when I was very young. I mean, if you want to, depends on what you mean by composing, but I was creating new pieces of music really from the beginning. I mean,
really?
My mom has reel-to-reel tapes of me,
Oh,
quote-unquote, writing songs when I was 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's always been part of you, maybe even more so before you picked up an instrument, perhaps.
My first musical memories, and I have them documented, is we had an acoustic guitar, like a classical style nylon string guitar, and my dad had a reel-to-reel tape recorder. Wallensack is the brand. Some of your older listeners might recall that brand, but it was a reel-to-reel tape deck, and it had a little microphone and a built-in speaker, and you could listen to what was being recorded. It had a record head and a play head, and you could jack it to the speakers, and if you turn up the volume, it would distort out. And so I would put the microphone inside the guitar and pretend it was like a distorted electric guitar. This is like 7, 8 years old.
Wow.
And I am, so I have quite a lot of reel-to-reel tapes of me singing and banging on the guitar and trying to play stuff. And so that was also my introduction to music production, which is also part of my life now. I guess I never grew up, Lita. That's what's become clear to me now.
That's a beautiful thing, but you're getting better and better and better as time goes on, if that's even possible. You've done so much, and you're such an advocate for musicians, and being part of you were on the board of the New York chapter of the Recording Academy for 7 or 8 years, I think, and served as vice president, acted as alternate national trustee, and then eventually 2 terms as president. What got you into that role of being a musician? Because a lot of people think about it, but they don't actually follow up and go out and do what you've done.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the Jazz Composers Collective was an act of social engagement. I think we were thinking artistically, obviously, but the motivation was partially political in the sense of, our interest was bringing people to the music and championing, underground artists and try to build community around creative music. So that's always been a part of my kind of worldview. So after the collective dissolved, we dissolved it intentionally in about 2005. There were a few years there where I didn't have an outlet for that kind of, whatever that is, that's part of me that wants to do that sort of thing, until a colleague, her name is Linda Lawrence, she at that point was working at CSAC, which is one of the performing rights organizations, and she was on the board, and she had put my name forward. They just nominate people from the community to get involved. The board is like, at that point, it was probably about 40 people. So it's quite a large board, and the board is just pulled from the music community, and it includes, all manner of artists and creators. Always very kind of high level, in the sense of people who are very active on the scene. And, some of them are lesser known because they're engineers and they may not be brand names, but
Right.
they're
Right.
recording the records that everyone hears and stuff like that.
Right.
And so she invited me to put my name forward, and then the way that works is there's an election, and that was voted in. I guess I'm not sure why, but I was fortunate to serve on it. It was my inspiration for serving on it really had more to do with the advocacy side of things, because the Recording Academy, in addition to everyone knows the Grammys and watches the Grammys, and that's their flagship enterprise and kind of how they make draw attention to music kind of in the biggest way. But behind the scenes, they also do a lot of advocacy that kind of touches on legislation and things like that, and education. And so that's the part that I was most interested in.
Mm-hmm. And you met with the state officials and senators also, right?
Yeah, I mean, most of the work was done on the federal level. Some of it was on the state, but whenever the federal people were here in New York, I would meet senators and members of Congress. I mean, there was at that point we were working towards what eventually became the Music Modernization Act, which is the largest piece of copyright legislation in the last 30 years or so. It was a piece. There were lots of separate bills that we had been working on that didn't really quite make it over the finish line, and we ended up combining them into one kind of, I guess they call it omnibus bills down there in D.C., to really overhaul the copyright system in a couple of key areas. And so that's what ended up being one of the main things that we were working on. And so we spent some time down there. I mean, we would go down quite a bit and meet with people and talk. I became kind of an armchair expert in it just by default, mostly by being around lawyers and other people who knew way more about it than I did. But I absorbed a lot and then, could make the case. And it passed, it was passed into law in 2018. So.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, you definitely made a difference. That's for sure. Yeah, very cool. The other thing I was very impressed with doing my homework, that you were the featured composer, arranger, and performer with Jazz Sinfonica, which was like a 80-piece orchestra in Brazil. Whew, how fantastic. How did that come about?
Yeah, that's just been this great collaboration over the years. I think, I'm not exactly sure what the first connection was. It was probably, I'm sure it was Ted Nash, my good pal Ted, who was one of my compatriots in the Jazz Composers Collective, and the first person to ever hire me to play on a tour, on a jazz tour, and just one of my dearest friends, and someone I've been playing with for over 30 years. But at that point, he's been in the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra for several decades, and they had gone down and worked with them, and he had forged a connection with some people down there. And so what we did is we connected the Jazz Composers Collective to some activities that were happening, also some that the U.S. Embassy had put together. And so we went down the collective under the name of the collective, so that was the first time. And it was through that experience that I met, the artistic director and conductor of the Sinfonica. So it's this incredible orchestra. It's like an 80-piece symphonic orchestra and big band.
Wow.
So it totals about 90 some odd, I think, usually somewhere in that range. And it's amazing. I think it's largely funded by the city of Sao Paulo. And this orchestra's been around for a long time. And what they do, it's quite genius. They invite artists, a lot of jazz musicians, but artists of different backgrounds, to come and be featured artists with them. And they have a staff of like house arrangers who are all excellent musicians. And what you do is you send your music to them, and they arrange it for the symphony orchestra, and then they send back iterations of the arrangements, and we kind of collaborate. We started collaborating eventually with notation software, but in the early days it was just faxing scores back and forth. And then you go down and you rehearse for 3 days, and then you do 2 nights of concerts.
Wow.
And so the first one, I think it was 2004 maybe that we did that, and then after that 2008 and maybe 2012. I forget exactly the years, but roughly every 3 or 4 years.
Are there recordings of this?
That is the thing. No.
Oh my!
I mean, I got my agent to do some kind of basement recordings, just sneak in some cheap recording devices. So I have some roomy sounding stuff, which is awesome. It sounds incredible.
Right.
But I don't have any high level recording. It was something we always wanted to do, but you'd have to pay 80 musicians if you were going to, like, let's say, release a record,
Yeah.
which is what was my dream. And, paying 80, it's hard enough paying 4.
Right.
And so I didn't really see that in my financial future. And there was one time where we thought about trying to apply for some funding,
Mm-hmm.
and the collective would have been the greatest way to do that. But as I said, the first time we went down there, 2004 or so, was towards the end of the collective, and so it was shortly thereafter that
Right.
the collective was no more, and then it just became kind of logistically too challenging. But still remains a pipe dream for me.
Hey, you never know, and you might come across some special grant at some point, or like you say, Ben, you have to search, and then you might find. So
That's exactly right.
right,
Yep.
yeah. You've released a whole bunch of albums. Your first solo release as Leaders back in the 90s, yes? 7 Arrows?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are you on now? Album 16, 17?
Yes, I think it's 16 if it's my original music.
Yes.
There are a couple of projects that I've been involved with, notably recently a trio with the aforementioned Ted Nash, good pal of mine, and my longtime collaborator Steve Cardenas,
Mm-hmm.
who has been on my recent albums. Your audience just heard him on Moments Inside. And he and Ted and I formed a drummerless trio about 10 years ago and have done 3 albums with that project. We're going to go in April and do our 4th. And that's a band. The concept with that is it's a cooperatively led group. So we each are kind of quote unquote leaders of it, and we more or less take turns producing the records or picking the repertoire. So the first album,
I like that.
we did music of Jim Hall and Jimmy Jufree. We collectively decided upon that repertoire, but it came out under my name just because of the nature of the record contract that we found.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is called Somewhere Else, West Side Story Songs, where Ted Nash led us through the music from West Side Story, and we just kind of tried to reduce that down to 3, which was super fun and great album. And then the most recent one just came out over the summer, and any day now we should be getting the vinyl version, which sounds incredible. It's called Healing Power, the music of Carla Bley. So we pick an artist each time and just do our thing with them. And the Carla Bley album has just been a huge, no surprise, it's great music, but it's been kind of for us, what I would consider a minor hit.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of, if you count like streaming streams.
Right.
Hit, but,
Yeah.
So it's been really fun. It's a great band, just really fun to play with.
Yeah, so exciting. And you also have, which right after our conversation here, shortly we will be premiering Philadelphia.
Ah, nice. Okay, so let me tell you about that.
Yes.
I was fortunate, one of the many fortunate things in my life, to get connected with a great record label early on in my career called Palmetto Records, and they're kind of still around, but not really. And I say that because the label itself was founded by a guitarist and producer named Matt Ballett-Saris, who started the label really just as a way to document his own music and then friends' music, and then shortly thereafter a lot of other people's, and he built this beautiful studio. And anyway, so he produced or executive produced. I artistically produced my albums, but he executive produced my first 10 records. And the nature of my deal with Palmetto is that they were licenses. And that just means that after a period of time, the rights to the records reverted to me,
Mm-hmm.
something Andrew Hill taught me.
Yeah, I heard that on another interview that you did, that you never sell your music. How wise.
Wasn't that? Yeah, that was he. It was when I was doing 7 Arrows and was preparing to sign a record contract with them. that he said, look, let me give you one piece of advice. Never sell it outright. In other words, always retain ownership. What you do is you license it to them. That is, they basically own it for a period of time. It's like they're renting it in a way.
How many people have you taught that trick to?
All of my students at the new school since 2011.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Yeah. I teach entrepreneurship and music business at the new school. So, yeah, that's like day 2 or class number 2. We get into that stuff. It was just such valuable advice, and this came from one of my idols, but somebody who described how he had essentially sold his. This is totally a tangent to what I was just talking about with Philadelphia, but he sold his masters to Blue Note, and that's the nature of those early Blue Note records. They were, they were bought, they were paid for by the label, and then the label would own them.
Right.
And he made all his early albums. There's an incredible, like his first 5 albums he did within like a 6-month period, and each one of them is a masterpiece. So he's like a genius that exploded onto the scene. But then he spent the next 35 years trying to get his music back, so he could, monetize it and own it and do what he needed to do with it. So that was his word of advice to me, and I took it to heart. And luckily, I was able to talk Palmetto into it. So that's the long setup to say that this, what I've been doing in the last 2 years is taking those Palmetto albums, which reverted to me in 2018, and remixing them and remastering them and just, kind of revisiting them, listening to them again. I hadn't listened to them in a while. And then re-releasing them under my own label, which is called Sonic Camera Records. And so we've been doing one a month, 5 in a row, one a month this last fall, and the 5th one comes out on January 30th.
That's wonderful.
Well, it'll be streaming February 7th, but and it's called Action Refraction. It's the last album I did for Palmetto.
Wow.
So originally the record came out in 2011, and it's my only covers album.
Uh-huh.
So after 9 albums of original material, I decided I would try my hand
at a cover.
Just like kind of deconstructing great tunes that I loved and doing, seeing what they would turn into if I kind of did
them your way.
Reimagine them. Did them my way and just kind of reimagine them.
The Ben Allison way. Hey, do you know the shop Colstein?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I love them, and that's where we get our stuff from. And they're in New York now too. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you bring them up?
I just bring them up because I love Barry, and I know them, and you're a bassist, and you're a string guy, and who doesn't know Colsteins? And I don't know. I love that shop, and it just, as a bassist, I wanted to ask you, and I think most people of your caliber definitely know Colstein and Sons, and it's a pretty unique kind of a place. No.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. Also, you have some shows coming up that I wanted to let listeners know about right in New York City at Mesro, right at the end of this month, January 27th and 28th with Michael Wolf Trio.
That's right, this weekend.
Yes. No, that's 27th is this weekend?
Wait, I think they're this weekend, aren't they? Let's see, when are we playing? I have to look at my calendar because I never know. Michael, it's this weekend. It's the 20th and 21st.
Oh, okay, 2021. Okay, and then
at Mesro,
and then you're at Birdland with your quartet, March 3 and 4.
Yeah, there's a whole. Yeah, I mean, we're out in Wisconsin the following weekend, and then Steve and I are playing a duo gig on February 18th in town. This great new venue called Great Jones. And then my trio is at Birdland the weekend of March 3rd. And then the weekend after that, I'm back at Birdland for 4 nights with a really cool project. It's kind of talk about a co-led project with saxophonist Jimmy Green and drummer Steve Smith, and we're doing Ornette Coleman's music.
Awesome.
For 4 nights. So,
wow. Yeah,
just always it's eclectic.
Yeah, absolutely. And people can follow you. Check your website out, benallison.com. You're also on the social medias. And I always tell people to buy music directly from musicians when and if they can. So check out your website, Ben Allison, and that's Allison with 2Ls.com. And you're on Bandcamp and all of that as well.
Not Bandcamp. I don't think so, but all the streaming services. And then if you like actually track, files, Ben Allison is probably the best place. Also, there's 24-bit FLACs, so for the audio files out there, I do sell those on my website.
Perfect. Wow. Well, I think that we could talk for many more hours, but I do want to have some of your music playing here as well, because it's really beautiful and eclectic and mesmerizing, and it's just, I loved your show at the Falcon. I certainly hope that you come back. I know that you had Chico Panero with you and Steve Cardenas and Alan Mednard on drums, and the four of you together were just exquisite. It really, you when I watch you play, Ben, you make it look so easy. And that's when you know you're watching a pro. You just are one with your instrument, and you can tell you just know that instrument so deeply and so well, and it's really a joy watching you perform. So I do hope you come back to the Hudson Valley. If not, I will certainly come down to the city and see you perform at some point too, because you're worth traveling for.
Thanks, Rita.
Yeah.
That's nice things to say. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we do. I mean, I do love the Falcon. Actually, it's a great venue, and it's one of those venues, that you walk in and it does make you want to play. And I imagine as an audience, it makes you want to listen because it's just got a great vibe. So it's always a pleasure to play up there.
Well, I hope you come back, and yeah, and I just thank you for your time today, and also thank you for allowing me to premiere Philadelphia, which is going to be on the airwaves momentarily, and then we'll go back to Moments Inside. And again, folks, take a follow at benallison.com and check out this incredible music. And thanks for all you do for the musicians out there and for your students. So you are paying it forward for sure, Ben. And it's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate your time on the show here today.
Thanks, Rita. And you're then right back at you, bringing people's attention to different music and really focusing on artists for the whole hour. Gee, I think felt like I just talked too much, but
you don't talk
anyway,
too. This is what we're supposed to do. So that's what this is.
But
so
I really appreciate that. Thank you for that.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. Be well. Stay safe, and and we'll keep spinning the music here on the airwaves. So thanks again for your time, and I'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Rita.
You're
Take
welcome.
care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
91.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. I was just about to stream Philadelphia. Now my computer just went down. So let me see if I can get this up. Otherwise, we're going to do another track. Ben Allison, the guest today. If you missed part or all of that conversation, it is recorded. We'll upload it tonight on the 91.3 WVKR LocalMotion YouTube page as well as Facebook page. Now, let's take a listen to this yet unreleased track, Philadelphia, from the upcoming album, which is coming out on the 30th of this month. Ben Allison's Philadelphia, right here, 91.3 WVKR. 91.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. It is 5:02 p.m. and you are tuned in to 91.3 WVKR, broadcasting live from the campus of Vassar College. We just heard the remastered album, Little Things Run the World. We heard the track called Roll Credits by Ben Allison, today's guest here on Local Motion. And we also premiered the track called Philadelphia from the upcoming album, which is being released on the 30th of January, called Action Refraction. Visit benallison.com to keep up with all the beautiful music this gentleman is making in many different projects. You can also go see him live this weekend at Mesro in New York City with the Michael Wolff Trio. Ben Allison brings his own quartet to Birdland in New York on March 3rd and 4th, and he'll be there again the following week, March 9th through 12th, for 4 nights of music of Ornette Coleman at Birdland. Again, benallison.com. And thank you to Ben for being my guest on Local Motion today. It was a lot of fun. And now we start off the second hour of Local Motion. We're here each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. And I always start out each hour that we don't have a guest by paying tribute to Tony Falco. Tony passed away October 28th of 2021. And he did many things for the community. One of the things that he's best known for, of course, is that he opened up the Falcon in Marlborough on Route 9W. His son is operating that today, Lee Falco. And the Falcon is closed right now for a little winter break, and they come back February 17th. But Tony also left a playlist of some cool music that he listened to. And I always start off each segment, we don't have a guest, by paying tribute to Tony. I'm going in order. There's no rhyme or reason. He just picked a track and liked it. So I am going to play this one for you. This is by Jesse Malin, Room 13, which features Lucinda Williams. Let's take a listen to this from Tony Falco's playlist here on 91.3 WVKR.
On my wall, and voices in the hall. I'm making up my own scene, hanging out in room 13. I pull down the blackout shade and watch the TV start to fade. Deadbolt on the lock, and I unplug the digital clock. Well, I spent some time in a hotel room thinking about love, and I walked away like those others do. Oh, and it's not enough. The walls are paper thin, in the scene everybody sins. All the liquor stores are closed, and I'm sleeping with the ghosts. Well, I spent some time in a hotel room thinking about love, and I walked away like those others do. Oh, well, it's not enough. I just wanna do the right thing, but I get dragged down on the wrong side. The girl on the telephone, she asked me when I'm coming home, and I'm falling somewhere in between what she says and what she means. It was something that was said
back rider, tell the world I do. Little back rider, tell the world I do. I'd do anything, baby, just to get with you. The world holds your secret, and I've been kind to you. The world holds your secrets, and I've been kind to you. Open up, sweet daddy, oh, let Big Mama through. Let me through, come on. I know about your past, all the stories I've been told. I know about your past, all the stories I've been told. You better let Big Mama ride before I get old. Oh, it gets a little soft sometimes. Rider, tell the world I do. Little back rider, tell the world I do. I'd do anything, baby, oh, just to get with you. Do anything just to get with you.
Oh, yeah. The one and only Alexis P. Suter Band. Her release titled Be Love, we heard Little Black Rider. Good news, and more good news, is that Alexis P. Suter is in the middle of recording a new album, and Byron Isaacs will be the producer of that. So looking forward to hearing that new music. And while the Falcon is currently on a winter break, Alexis P. Suter will be their opening weekend, February 18th at the Falcon. You can check out an incredible performance. It's like going to church when you see Alexis P. Suter Band. February 18th at the Falcon. You can make your reservations right online at liveatthefalcon.com. And from what I understand, it's also her birthday. So one can only imagine what can happen, and I think it's going to be the place to be on February 18th at the Falcon. We started this hour out with a track from Tony Falco's playlist, Jesse Malin featuring Lucinda Williams off the album Sunset Kids. We heard the track called Room 13, and that's how we start out each and every show here. Paying tribute to Tony Falco. He did leave a really cool playlist. There's a couple hundred tracks on there. I figure when I'm done with them, I'll start from the beginning so that we always pay a little tribute here each and every show of Local Motion. Another great show happening tomorrow in Woodstock at Colony. And this will be the drummer tomorrow night. Let's take a listen to Anton Fig, 91.3 WVKR.
Can't face the music, can't face my friends, can't face to lose it, can't face myself, And I don't wanna try to talk through the reasons that we already talked through. In my apartment, the lights are down, the record spinning, there is no sound. 'Cause I don't wanna try to dance to, won't dance to without you. It's ridiculous but true. And I don't mind telling you, and I don't mind telling you, and I don't mind telling you. Turning me inside out, turning me inside out, telling you every day without you. It's turning me inside out, it's turning me inside out. Still I know I must find a way to forget you. Yeah. I'll make some changes. Maybe I'll cut my hair and I'll make my face up. Maybe go out somewhere. But I don't wanna try to go to those places where we used to go. I don't wanna go without you. And I don't mind telling you. Don't mind telling you. Don't mind telling you. Oh, turning me inside out. Turning me inside out, telling you every day without you. It's turning me inside out, turning me inside
91.3 WVKR. Tony DiPaolo, title track from the album Strategy, was released a few years back. TonyDiPaolo.com. From what I understand, Tony is going to be celebrating a birthday this coming Sunday. So an early happy birthday to Tony DiPaolo. And he'll be performing live at Dogwood in Beacon Sunday evening with the group titled Electric Django. And it's also Django's birthday. So lots to celebrate in Beacon on Sunday evening at Dogwood. And check out Tony DiPaolo. We also heard Anton Fig. Yes, that Anton Fig, the drummer. He's had a release back, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so ago. And Figments is what it's titled. We heard the track called Inside Out. And on vocals was Ivan Neville, Randy Brecker on flugelhorn, Adam Holzman on keyboards, Will Lee on bass, Joe Caro on guitar, and Catherine Russell on background vocals. This is an all-star lineup. You would not believe how many dozens and dozens of musicians are on this amazing album that was released by drummer Anton Fig, who you might remember if you were a fan of the David Letterman show. He was Letterman's drummer for something like 30 years. I'm playing Anton Fig. He's been on the show a couple times, and it's mad fun listening to Anton's story. And more importantly, he's playing tomorrow night live in Woodstock with Chris Spedding and Tony Garnier. So they're doing a tribute to Robert Gordon, and that's the place to be tomorrow, colonywoodstock.com. Still a few tickets left, but this is going to be an unbelievable show tomorrow in Woodstock with Anton Fig, Tony Garnier, and Chris Spedding, paying tribute to the late Robert Gordon. Always great music happening here in the Hudson Valley. It's 5:23. I'm your host, Rita Ryan, here with LocalMotion each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. We're going to keep the music flying right now with this lovely lady who will be performing in Beacon this Friday night. I'll tell you where and when and all that good stuff after we take a listen to Willa Vincitor, 91.3 WVKR.
I wouldn't stand a chance. No, no, no. If I bumped you, nobody give me a second glance. That's what you ain't the same now. It just ain't the same. No, it now. Ain't the same. It just ain't the same now. It just ain't the same. No, it ain't the same. It just ain't the same now. It just ain't the same now. It just ain't the same. Just ain't the same. Just ain't the same.
Stand up, you can't get up off your seat. The music's no longer playing, you're still tapping your feet. This joint looks familiar, but you're not sure where you are. I thought you been everywhere, but you never left this bar. Take a look around, son, your friends are all gone. You want to keep on going, there's really nothing going on. Now take one last look, I think you finally know this party is over. It was over a long time ago. A long time ago. You called up all your friends, see if anyone's still up, but nobody ever answers, cause they've all had enough. You find a new place to go, maybe meet somebody new. You can tell all those stories about the things you used to do. And take a look around, son, your friends are all gone. You want to keep on going, there's really nothing going on. And take one last look, I think you finally know this party is over. It was over a long time ago. Into the mirror, tell me, what do you see? The reflection don't look nothing like the man you used to be. You find there is the end, there's nowhere left to go. No one around here cares enough to want to tell you to go home. And take a look around, son, your friends are all gone. You want to keep on going, there's really nothing going on. Take one last look, I think you finally know this party is over. It was over a long time ago. A long time ago. This party was over a long time ago. It's time to go. It's time you go home.
91.3 WVKR. That was last week's guest, Mr. Brian Mitchell. His latest release called Songs from the Lower East Side. We heard the song This Party Is Over. You can see Brian perform at Tinker Street, which is part of the Bearsville Theater Complex. And it's a a show that costs nothing on Friday night. It's going to be pretty amazing. He's got an all-star lineup with him. He always does. Brian Mitchell at Tinker Street this Friday night. He'll also be performing with the Weight Band on Saturday, January 28th at Levon Helm Studios in Woodstock. If you missed my interview with him, you can go to the YouTube channel LocalMotion on 91.3 WVKR and check that out. He's a great storyteller, phenomenal multi-instrumentalist, musician, and all that good stuff. So that was a lot of fun. We also heard Willa Vincentor, her album Choices, and we heard the track Just Ain't the Same. And her incredible band will be performing this Friday night at Town Crier right on Main Street in Beacon. Tickets available by visiting towncrier.com, and that's town spelled with an E, crier.com, to check out their incredible lineup, and also Willa Vincentor with her fabulous band this Friday night. And here's some new music. Sal Cataldi, also known as Spaghetti Eastern Music's got some new music out, and we're going to play a track of it right here, right now on 91.3.
can't even count the times I've wished that you were mine. So tired of all this pretending, all this back and forth with the crazy things you do, trying to figure out the signals you send me. If you wanna go for a ride, and if you dare to cross that line, come on, jump inside. Go ahead and turn the key, get on the gas, 0 to 60. There ain't no stop signs here, all the lights are green, it's just you and me, going 0 to 60. Can't even count the times I've seen you walk on by. Suddenly I have trouble thinking. I never knew just what to say, 'cause the words get in the way. So we can let our lips do all our talking. If you wanna go for a ride, and if you dare to cross that line, jump inside. Go ahead and turn the key, get on the gas, 0 to 60. There ain't no stop signs here, all the lights are green, it's just you and me, going 0 to 60. Let's go there. Go ahead and turn the key, get on the gas, 0 to 60. Yeah, no stop signs here, all the lights are green, it's just you and me, going 0 to 60. Come on, jump inside, go ahead and turn the key, get on the gas, 0 to 60. Yeah, no stop signs here, all the lights are green, it's just you and me, going 0 to 60. Come on, jump inside, go ahead and turn the key, get on the gas, 0 to 60.
91.3 WVKR, brand new music, was just sent to me like about a week ago. The duo known as Cohen and Klee, Steve Cohen and Jessica Klee. And the single is titled 0 to 60. You can check out their website, CohenKlee.com. That's Cohen, Cohen, Klee, KLEE.com. 0 to 60. Thanks for sending this my way, you guys. Sounds terrific, and congratulations on it. Also, new music being sent my way was from Sal Cataldi, also known as Spaghetti Eastern Music. We heard A Fresh Kill. It's the new single off an forthcoming all-instrumental album. It's going to be titled From Our Labs to Your Lobes, Volume 1. And thanks, Sal, for sending me A Fresh Kill. And also, there's 2 tracks. We'll do that another day as well. So, Spaghetti Eastern Music. You can follow them on Bandcamp. And I believe Sal is also all over social media. Sal Cataldi. All right. We've got a little bit longer to go here. We're going to play one more track, and then we'll do musical happenings, letting you know what's happening here musically in and around the Hudson Valley. Here's another new album that was just recently released, and Rebecca Coop Franks. Let's take a listen to her album. This track is titled Earth, 91.3. .3 WVKR, brand new music, a release called Planets from Rebecca Coop Franks. And we heard the track called Earth. 14 tracks going from the sun to the moon, and we heard Earth. Rebecca Coop Franks is on trumpet and did all the compositions. She's joined on piano by Louis Perdomo, Larry Grenadier on bass, and Jonathan Blake on drums. Rebecca Coop Franks.com. She's one gifted musician, that's for sure. And it's time for musical happenings. It's 5:45. You are tuned into Local Motion here on 91.3 WVKR. We broadcast live each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. featuring music of the Hudson Valley. Thank you again to today's guest, Ben Allison, who was my guest during the 4 o'clock hour. If you've missed that interview, I'll be uploading it tonight on the YouTube channel and the Facebook page under Local Motion on 91.3 WVKR. Now, I do this each and every show. Towards the end of the show, we list in alphabetical order some of the area venues in the hopes that you go support live music and our world-class area venues. Let's start with the Bardavon and UPAC. Bardavon.org. March 1, Sean Colvin, Mark Cohen, and Sarah Jaros. April 15, Natalie Merchant. Bearsville Theater in Woodstock, also bearsvilletheater.com. February 8, Angel Olsen and the Big Time Band. March 3, Talking Heads Tribute with Start Making Sense. Caramore in Katona, New York. Also info at caramore.org. February 12, Chamber Music with Avalis Quartet. March 24, Sean Mason Quintet. City Winery Hudson Valley in Montgomery, New York, also at citywinery.com/Hudson Valley. Friday, Broken Heartstrings Hot Club. February 2, Anders Osborne. Colony in Woodstock and colonywoodstock.com. Tonight, the Alex Jornoff Band. Thursday, Chris Spedding with Anton Fig and Tony Garnier. Friday, Indigo Spark and Band featuring Aaron Dresner. Saturday, 2 shows with Joe Pera in Ice. Sunday, Andrea Maddox and the Hey Y'alls. And every Monday is an open mic at Colony Woodstock. Dogwood in Beacon, also dogwoodbeacon.com. Saturday, Eugene Tyler Band. Sunday, Tony DiPaolo with Electric Django. At the Falcon in Marlborough and live at thefalcon.com. Closed for winter break, reopens Friday, February 17 with Balin and Saturday, February 18 with Alexis P. Suter Band. Fisher Center at Bard College. Info at fishercenter.bard.edu. January 27, The Sound of Spring, a Chinese New Year concert with the orchestra now. Howland Chamber Music Circle at Howland Cultural Center in Beacon. Tickets and info at howlandmusic.org. January 29, pianist Tsu Wang. Jazz Forum in Tarrytown. Info at jazzforumarts.org. Friday and Saturday, Mike Ladon Organ Quintet, 2 shows each night. Levon Helm Studios in Woodstock, also levonhelm.com. January 28, The Wait Band. February 4, Midnight Ramble. February 5, Ida. Sugarloaf Performing Arts Center and info at sugarloafpacny.com. January 20, Starship featuring Mickey Thomas. Tarrytown Music Hall in Tarrytown and also at tarrytownmusichall.org. January 26, Jazz is Dead, 25th anniversary celebrating the Grateful Dead. February 11, Mandy Patinkin. Last but never least, Town Crier in Beacon and towncrier.com. Every Thursday is an open mic. Friday on the Salon stage, Hinterlands. Friday on the main stage, Willa Vincitor and Company. Saturday on the Salon stage, Restless Wanderer. Saturday on the main stage, Max Creek. Sunday brunch with the Eric Puente Jazz Quartet. And Sunday evening is the Ukulele Open Mic. And that's what I got, folks. I hope you go out and support some live music, especially during these dark winter months. Nothing better to feed your soul than seeing some live music. I have a little bit of time left, so I'm going to play some more music by today's guest, Ben Allison. I will be back next week with another unique guitarist, Mr. Matt Monastery. Lots of the next couple of weeks, some really interesting musicians. Matt Monastery who right now is in Panama, from what I understand. And he'll be talking to us next Wednesday. In 2 weeks, I'll return with Stephen Bernstein. Always a great time talking with him. In 3 weeks, when I fully confirm that, I'll let you know who it is. February 15th, we have Ben Zverin. We've got lots of great shows. We're fully booked into April at this point. So keep it tuned. Keep coming back every Wednesday, 4 to 6, or just check out the YouTube channel and the LocalMotion Facebook page as well. And keep up with all the great guests that are here on the show. So today's guest, Ben Allison, his latest release, Moments Inside, which he was kind enough to give to me when I saw him at the Falcon a few months back. This track is called Safe Passage. Let's take a listen to this from Ben Allison off the album Moments Inside here on 91.3.